Hi, everybody. Welcome to the IMRAN show and the segment Your UX Sucks, where the idea is we don't want your UX to suck and also to discuss what's happening in the customer experience, user experience, human experience, employee experience, all this experience management field, the changes that have been happening for a long time, the focus that they seemed to be getting, and then the focus that seemed to disappear with cost cutting, mass layoffs, etc., and seemingly a little less focus on humanity in society and politics that we have also seen. And of course, then along came AI, like along came Poly. AI came and basically changed the paradigm, changed the industry, changed the game. You take your pick of cliche, but what does that mean? Has AI made things better on the user experience and customer experience front? Or there's been no change, or frankly, in some areas, has it gotten worse? Those are the topics I want to talk about today. And this segment is part of a larger series of the Imran show, which is the Thoughts and Leaders segment. It's basically thoughts and leadership and thought leadership. You combine the words in any combination you like. And today, the idea I have is for us to dive a little deeper into this with my good friend and a great contact of mine for many, many years. His name is Mark Michelson, and he has just joined us live. And hey, Mark, it was just perfect timing. And welcome to the show. And I would also love to uh, get you to introduce yourself to the audience. And also, I was just mentioning how basically you and I, met when about 15 years ago when user experience and customer experience were top of mind for a lot of companies and the focus seemed to be growing. And then we've seemed to have taken a turn for the worse where society, politics, government, businesses, nobody seems to care as much about the human side of things. User experience be damned, customer experience, who cares? And then at the same time, AI was the excuse for the mass layoffs, which are partly to blame for the decline in user experience and customer experience, in my opinion. But I think that's a crutch because AI has not really made things better. Maybe some things, maybe it's better for companies, but has that changed life for the better for consumers, for end users, for employees, for humanity as a whole? And because you have spanned in your career everything from the CX side to being a musician to so much more, who better to invite to this thoughts and leaders segment on your UX sucks than yourself? Give us an introduction. Tell everybody how you got into this field, what you do, how we met, and then of course where you are now and where you see things going. Sorry for the long intro, but you are well worth it.
Oh, gee. Well, thanks for having me here. I'm Mark Michelson. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. My trade and practice has always been in marketing research, and I started a company in '84. I've had 5 different companies that I've started. I've sold 3 of those. The companies have been focused on marketing research for the most part, but I also did a conference business as a sideline. The conference business was an offshoot of an association at the time. So always been into associations, into understanding and working with people. And it really helps my mission, which is to help people understand each other. You'd mentioned AI in the introduction, and that is something else that I've been exploring for the past couple of years. Currently, I'm serving as the regional director for the AI Collective, the Southeast region. And the goal of the AI Collective is to simply bring people together to talk about AI. Now, everyone has their opinions on it. There's no right or wrong. I think that right now it's way too early to say what AI is going to do or not. I think there's general consensus. It's here to stay. It's a useful tool. I think people are just figuring out how to use it in practical ways to help their business, whether it's in gaining efficiencies or in just new ideas and new ways of thinking, give them a grounded thinking around that. So that's kind of my introduction and overview, and looking forward to our discussion.
I love it. Am I? seeing things right, that there has been a decline in the focus that user experience or customer experience in particular have suffered since the time we actually got introduced, when I think we were both speaking at a great conference in Amsterdam, I think. Amsterdam or
Yeah,
Berlin. Berlin, I forget which one it was.
there's definitely been a maturity curve that it's hit for CX. I have my own thoughts. Again, I'll be happy to share that. I'm not shy. um, Essentially, within the world of CX, I mean, that became a term. Shortly after the book The Experience Economy came out. And while the term itself is a great thought, encompasses everything. Initially, I was thinking of CX as sort of the bridge between operations and marketing, so that we're not making stuff that we can't deliver, and we're not promising stuff, that we can't make, right? So that was kind of the way to incorporate customers and employees into running a business. Um, Unfortunately, I think that what happened is a lot of this was hijacked, and I use that term not loosely, but I believe it was hijacked in large part by the belief that if it goes back to what gets measured gets done, and that's a phrase that I used a lot when I was doing the mystery shopping business. So when you think whatever gets measured gets done, then all of a sudden you want to measure everything. And some of the companies out there, in particular the survey platforms, said, "Wow, instead of doing 100 surveys here, 1,000 surveys there, we can get surveys done every minute of every day if we monitor every touch point." Right? So every transaction you do, you get a survey. And thumbs up, thumbs down, even after this call. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How was it? How was your package? How was your web experience? And we're over surveyed. Now, two things happen in that process. Over the past 5, 6 years, we've seen tremendous shifts in economics, from COVID. But a lot of the companies had invested heavily into these um, platforms to measure customer experience. And they have metrics and scores they've come up with. Some are pointed like a CSAT, a CSAT score. How did you like this one thing, right? Versus NPS, which is guessing, are you going to recommend it to other people, which is a projective technique for
And
loyalty.
and for
Now,
people who might not be familiar with the terms, do
sure.
you know do
Yeah,
do
NPS
share.
was invented by Bain and Company. Guy named Fred Reichelt, and essentially it's a 0 to 10 score, and you take those scores where you have an additive on the high and a negative on the lows, and that comes out to a score. That NPS score became a holy grail for a lot of companies. Someone in food service might say, well, Nordstrom has a really high NPS. Why aren't we doing like them? And it's just wrong to try to compare your company to anyone else's, really. But that became the comparative metric, right? So NPS is that. CSAT stands for customer satisfaction, right? So are you satisfied with this widget? Are you satisfied with this call, right? And there's lots of ways to ask a lot of these questions. All that really mattered, though, was why did you give it that score? And so then they started asking that, and that's a qualitative response. So what happened was you have a lot of people building dashboards, and they're trained on managing customer experience. So their job is, they think their job is to build a dashboard and report the news, share the news of our scores this month across the ecosystem of a company. Um, that doesn't always help people get things done or fix things, right? And so the objective here is to ensure people have a good experience. That's really a cultural thing. It's hard to fix any of this if it's poorly designed to begin with. But secondly, if you're measuring a poorly designed experience from the beginning and you're coming in later after it's already been designed, let's say McDonald's, already been designed. There's lots of them. They have drive-throughs, they have interior, right? Now all of a sudden you start measuring all these things. And from the very beginning, you sort of have a baseline of what? A baseline of that measurement. Well, guess what? Over COVID, almost every category decreased greatly, except for, believe it or not, food service. I think when COVID was over, a lot of people were so excited to go to restaurants. They were happy to be there. But within the area of CX, and I'll just give you some numbers. Numbers might tell a story. Um, in mystery shopping, we thought it was really cool that we were almost $1 billion in total annual revenue as determined by University of Florida back in 1998, 99, right? Wow, big stuff. Well, then in context, look at marketing research as an industry. It's $78 billion globally, and it's been that for a long time, and it's not growing very fast. Static. The next category, CX. $300 billion annually in CX. They include a lot of CRM systems. They include a lot of, other types of customer relationship stuff, loyalty companies, things like that are in that pile. Interestingly, they put Qualtrics in that pile and not in the marketing research because Qualtrics was it started out as a survey program, but then they bundled it together with SAP. And that's an interesting story itself. The valuation went from originally they wanted to take it and make it public for $1 billion, which would have been bigger than Nielsen as far as research companies go. But then SAP came in and said, hey, how about 8 billion cash? We'll take the whole thing. They did. So, 3 people got $8 billion and SAP got the property. They tried to take it public for $46 billion, which it did. And then it quickly dropped down to 12 and they sold it. Numbers wise, research never really talked billions for an individual company. Now, take it a step further. Forrester and Gartner both said that each year from the past 4 years, the spend on CX and the number of people working, like number of departments for CX, was decreasing each year by 25%. After 4 years, it goes to zero, right? You would think. But it just keeps decreasing. And so does the spend because they're not able to say, here's my ROI. And their spend was on a monitoring system, not a fixing system. It's like a doctor saying, here, I've got this wonderful, we're going to do a temperature and we're also going to put these heart monitors on you for a month. And then we come back and then thank you very much. Here's your bill. It doesn't help the patient.
Correct.
And
I was going to.
one more thing. So in AI now, 300 billion globally, it's dropping big time in CX because it's a cultural thing. AI, on the other hand, they're spending $200-300 billion on each data center, and they're going in like wildfire. It's $1 trillion business or more. Who knows? Is there a bubble? Probably, but we'll cover that later. But right now, just numbers wise, we're talking Jupiter or the universe or the galaxy when you're talking AI. You're talking, Earth when you're talking CX. You're talking, the moon when you're talking research, right?
Correct. And the comment I was going to make was when you said, let's say 3 guys or gals got 8 billion, I was going to say so who's the third person you and I should connect with to get our 8 billion in this?
2 brothers and the father. So one of the guys, Ryan, he basically came up with a lot of it. And then they had another employee there who I won't mention, but he basically wrote the whole program. And then, they had the idea to make it more than a survey platform, which meant to try to corner the CX space quickly.
As a matter of fact, almost every transaction I do see Qualtrics. They basically dominate the market.
And they just bought up 4 or 5 of the competitors.
Right. So I think that also touches upon the angle I see, which is that data is great. I'm an engineer, right? So and I have an MBA, so numbers make sense to me. If you can't measure it, you can't achieve it. All that stuff is so true. But there is a human side. When I go in, I'm not looking to be a statistic who went into a restaurant or store or website. And I don't want to come back with an experience feeling like, oh, I had a 7.5 experience. No, I just want to be like delighted. And that's that human side. There's no numeric value I'm putting on things. When I'm angry, I'm not saying, well, I feel like a -7 today on this experience, etc. So I think the human side that CX was, in my opinion, was supposed to sort of encompass and cover and nurture and grow has fallen by the wayside. Yes, the numbers are important. Everything has to be metrics driven, etc. I can totally understand that. But the cultural side, the humane side has also fallen. So if you are in a touchy-feely role of customer success, where you're trying to make the client feel happy and successful and excited, you still have the roles and the titles, but the quality of the experience that you are providing, and that includes companies where I have worked with in myself and others, where that has become secondary. So previously, if you were doing customer experience or customer success, you wanted the best and brightest to be serving the customers. Now it's like, how can I meet the requirements of my contract with the lowest cost?
Yeah.
And who cares if the client gets a newbie, for example, who's learning on the job? Hey, I saved some money laying off 30,000 people, for example. So that's where, oh, AI is making things better. But I don't see that connect. I don't see AI is replacing that human side of the customer experience. Yes, if I'm an employee in a big company, whether it's Microsoft or Amazon or Apple even, yeah, sure, I can summarize 10 emails with AI. But if my job is to make you happy, my having read a summary of your email doesn't make me more empathetic or even actually help me understand your full story, because that AI summary will miss that 5 years of relationship building that we may have done, etc. Those things have fallen by the wayside, and that's something I keep harping on. Am I wrong?
Well, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. And there's a lot of things that have happened culturally in the U.S. to where we don't have that kind of trust, and openness anymore. Really, I mean, when you talk about the human side of things, you're talking about the emotional state of the person and their expectation of what that experience will be. The emotional state of the person, everyone has a bad day and a good, good times, bad times. You could have the same day. You could wake up great, afternoon's not so good. Who knows? You got news or something. But
Or you had a bad customer experience?
you could have had a really bad one. Who knows? But it's your expectation for that, right? I don't have a huge expectation when I go fill my gas tank. I hope the machine works. I don't really want to go inside.
Yep.
I just hope the card reader, that's my expectation is very low. I don't even have no humans in a transaction. Okay. Versus, if I'm going to go buy a new car or a computer or something like that, I expect a little more attention, or someone to answer my questions. But again, my state and my expectations are going to drive that experience more than scripted protocol. Okay. You could give me a scripted protocol all day long. And if I'm not feeling it that day, I don't really care. Right. I mean, I almost read into it like, yeah, you're just trying to, script me. I'm just here for this thing. I need to go. I got to get out of here. My goal today is get this and go, not get this and stay here and chat and blah, blah, blah. Right. So the thing that I'm really surprised as a researcher that we don't have an actual experience score. That is such an easy thing to do. You have to understand the expectation for the category, right? So, what is your expectation? You know, I got to do this thing, my job to be done, or I want to have a relationship, or whatever that expectation is, right? Measure it on 2 or 3 dimensions if you want, but simple score. Get it down to expectation. And then you take my experience, whatever that is, give it a scale if you want. Let's say both of them are scale of 1 to 10. So you say experience, my expectation, my experience minus expectation is the score. So my experience is greater than the expectation. I'm pretty happy. If it's lower than, why, right? And that, for whatever reason, doesn't exist. E minus E equals E.
Right, right. So, in the sense that obviously those are some of the challenges that organizations sometimes are actually sort of putting on themselves. They're choosing paths where the customer feels less loyalty, less love, less desire to stay with the vendor or provider of any sort. And then, of course, AI is also helping customers do a lot of stuff that they would have gone to providers for. So the same AI that a lot of businesses may be thinking of as a tool just for them can also be a disruptor in many other fields and throw in robots, whether Musk makes his robot army or not, uh, the robotics from Honda and other companies that will eventually, make it into our homes, as those disrupt many other businesses and 3D printing, food 3D printing, let's say, becomes possible, there's going to be massive disruption in the next 10 to 25 years, right? Isn't that same AI going to be a threat to the companies that think that AI is giving them the edge where profits are more important because they could be, driven extinct by people saying, I don't need this company anymore. I can get the bottles of meat and whatever and make my own hamburger, for example. And if that is the case, where do you see AI taking society or us taking AI on our journey as humans in the next 5 and 10 years, 25 years, who knows, right?
5 and 10 is tough these days. It's hard to even get to two
Yeah.
because things are changing so fast. I think we're going to come to terms with AI as a tool, not as our friend. And there are a lot of people who consider AI to be their new friend. I mean, they're so thrilled that someone's listening to them and responding positively, right? It's a little bit sycophant. So a lot of
Oh
people
my God, I
enjoy
used
that.
that word. I used that word, and it was Chat GPT started that. Now Gemini is doing that, and I end up using cuss words like say "stop kissing my ass" and give me, it's like I've asked a question. Sorry for the interruption, but like I ask a question about this and this. Let's say I want to ask like, how do I, microwave an egg? And the answer was, as an engineer with 40 years technology experience and having a legacy of writing, this could be a story you could post on Facebook. I want to just nuke a bloody egg.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's good. It does. There's a lot of customization and settings that they don't really tell us about, right? And so, for me, AI has come on us almost like all those scooters did. Back during COVID, all these scooters just appeared everywhere. I mean, hey, if you're in a major city, it's hard to walk on a sidewalk for the number of scooters.
yep.
And they didn't come with instructions. They came with a QR code. And you're like, all right, figure it out, right? A lot of injuries. They're not on the streets so much anymore, right? That was kind of a technology solution for a problem that really didn't exist. It was kind of like, okay, it's fun, but do I need it? Maybe, but can I do it? I think the same thing is happening with AI. Do I need it? Maybe, and can I do it? Right? There's a lot that people would experience a different AI experience if they go and change their settings. For instance, sycophancy, removing things that annoy you and putting them in your personalization and your settings. Now, the other thing is people don't even understand all the different models. Each model does different things slightly, right? And a lot of people are just kind of stuck with their enterprise system. If they're Microsoft, they're on Copilot. If they're Google, they're on Gemini. They don't really get the chance to go out of their ecosystem unless they're, on their own personal time. And then it's typically a chat or Claude or something like that. Is it going to take over? There's a weird, what do they call that term for when machines become sentient? There's a term.
Singularity, maybe?
Yeah, singularity. Singularity is not only the word for when machines become sentient, the term for the edge of the black hole. No one knows what goes on in either one, right?
Exactly.
I think it's ironic that the same word has two meanings. Uh, you know,
That I would call the plurality of singularity.
there you go, plurality of singularity. I mean, I think there's also, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this all the time, and it's very strange. But the old parable of the Chinese village that was getting attacked all the time, so they moved up onto a mountain. Right? Have you heard this one? They all moved up to the mountain, and they were happy up there except water. Water was a problem, so they had to send the youngest, most able people all the way down the mountain every day to bring up pails of water. Right? Because drinking, whatever, you can't live without water. So they kept doing this, and wearing the people out. And they're, after a while, they're all bent over. So then one guy comes along and says, we could probably have this, wheel that would throw water uphill a little bit, and then another one, a pumping system, right? So they did that. They created a pumping system. They didn't have to go down and risk the danger and all the problems. It gave them a lot of free time. What did they do with the free time? They started creating art and writing poetry and doing things that were out of the realm of what they needed to do to survive. I mean, same thing kind of happened with cave people. Once they had some comfort, they could do art on the walls, right? It's just, and I think we're going to be maybe at that point where, I don't know about you, I can't remember any phone numbers except maybe my own when I was a kid, right? That's it.
Exactly.
The phone itself has already become our exo brain. It's with us all the time. We can't be 3 feet away from it, period, right? I think
Agreed.
AI in the phone, as well as anywhere, is just going to be our way to go for answers. And the bigger question, and I don't even know if they've solved it, I don't think they will, but how do companies still show up in search, right? When it's, and there's a lot of names for AIO, AEO, GEO, but AI search, how do you show up authentically? You
Yep,
can't game it. You can't just buy words
that's
and get
true.
there.
That would definitely be another topic for another segment. Thank you so much for making time today, Mark. It's such a pleasure. It's been great knowing you in the industry through the evolutions that I have gone through, you have gone through, and we continue. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to having another conversation, not just on the AI side and customer experience, but also other things organizations can do to leverage AI to create better products and services, and of course, improve the customer experience. Thank you for joining me on the Thoughts and Leaders, Your UX Sucks segment. Thanks. Thanks so
My
much again.
pleasure.
Bye now.